Who's the best running back in college football? Not even just necessarily from an NFL draft perspective, but who is the best running back right now? I think there are a few options when you're looking at an NFL draft. I think it's kind of down to two options, but there are some really good running backs in college football right now. And we knew that coming in, but there have been some guys that have fallen off. There are some other guys that have stepped up. Is Jamir Gibbs the best running back in college football? I think that when you look at the Alabama running back and what he's able to do, he has taken his game to a new level. There's another guy that we're going to discuss in that conversation, but let's start with Jamir Gibbs. Jamir Gibbs is really, to me, taken another step. And I was one of the people that believed that he was going to be sensational for Alabama, but he has exceeded even my expectations. At times, he is the go to threat, both in the running and the passing game for Alabama. And that says something for an offense that has a ton of talent. Jahmyr Gibbs at times looks like a wide receiver when he's catching passes. And at times, the analysts that are in the booth don't know who Bryce Young just threw to because it looks like wide receiver. He's that talented. He has been a phenomenal pass catcher. He's been a phenomenal runner. He makes everybody look ridiculous. His quickness, his speed, his power, too. He has everything. And his draft stock has skyrocketed this year so far. I think that he's done a phenomenal job of keeping Alabama afloat in certain games. And even though they lost this weekend, he is someone that has made Alabama better. If they didn't have him, Jace McClellan is good, but he is not Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that Alabama would be much worse without Jahmyr Gibbs. And maybe, especially when Bryce Young was out too, that could have been problematic. This could be an Alabama team that has more losses than the one they sustained this weekend against Tennessee. Now, the other guy that we have to discuss is Bijan Robinson. And when you're talking about Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson, if you have a preference between the two, I don't have an argument either way. Jamir Gibbs is phenomenal. Bijan Robinson is phenomenal as well. You look at, speaking of what Gibbs does for Alabama, Bijan Robinson is doing that for Texas. Now, it helps to have Quinn Ewers back, but Bijan Robinson has been the biggest reason for Texas' success so far this year. With Quinn Ewers out, they relied on him to run the football a little bit more. He has been able to do everything. And we talked about Gibbs' ability as a pass catcher. Bijan Robinson has taken a step forward in that regard as well. You look at some of the catches he's made, he looks like a wide receiver, which is terrifying given his size already. This is someone who is a game changer in terms of running the football. He has elevated his draft stock because he's been able to be a better pass catcher as well, and that's something that I think is really exciting if you're a Texas Longhorns fan. You look at what Bijan's been able to do in the past; he continues doing that. He's going to be a first round pick. There aren't too many flaws in his game, and that's something that is making him one of the most coveted players coming into the 2023 NFL draft, and makes him one of the best college football running backs this year. Jahmyr Gibbs is challenging him. I think that you're looking at a 1A, 1B situation, but these two are really fun to watch. If you haven't watched them yet, I'm not sure what you're doing, but these two are must watch TV. And to me, kind of like the quarterback situation for the 2023 NFL draft between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, running back is a two-man race. And then from there, the guys challenging them are also good. It's not a huge gap, but we'll talk about some of those guys here. Blake Corum, another guy that I was high on coming into this year. He had a phenomenal game against against a good Penn State rushing attack or rushing defense. Made him look really, really bad. Maybe Penn State was a little bit overrated, but 156 yards for Blake Corum and 2 touchdowns. He is someone, like I said, I was high on coming into the year. I think a lot of people just expected Donovan Edwards to have a big year and be the go-to guy. Blake Corum has been that and more for Michigan, and I think that people are starting to see that now that he's been able to prove why he's that good. I believed it when he was coming into the year. I still believe it. I know that he's good. Now, Donovan Edwards had a good game, 173 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Blake Corum is the leader of that offense. He is the big reason why they've been so successful, and he is someone that is pushing for RB1 spot, but it's kind of hard with the amount of sensational plays that Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson have been making. Another guy that's on this list, Zach Charbonnet. UCLA improved to 11-0 when he rushes for 100 yards. And this is a team that is really, really good this year. DTR is playing really well. Zach Charbonnet, the former Michigan transfer, funny enough, has been really good for the Bruins, and the offense has been a big reason why they're having so much success this year. I think that he is a big body running back. That is the big reason why they've been successful on offense. Obviously, DTR's improvement has been the biggest reason, but the stability and the consistency that Charbonnet brings to the offense is a huge key as well. One guy that is kind of flying under the radar now because they've lost 2 in a row is Mohamed Ibrahim of the Minnesota Golden Gophers, someone who at one point was tied with Blake Corum for the top of most rushing statistics, or competing with him. And again, Minnesota has some things to figure out, but Mo Ibrahim is one of the best running backs in college football right now. And he is someone that is a really tough to tackle. He works really well in between the tackles in the trenches. He knows how to bring power and a little bit of quickness to kind of make guys look bad. The guy that he lost to this week, Chase Brown, someone who I think a lot of people believe Chase Brown could be really good coming into the year. We just weren't sure how good Illinois was going to be. And now they've moved to 6-1. They are bowl eligible already in week 7, and their win against Minnesota was largely led by Chase Brown. Now, he is again someone that we believed is going to be a really fun player to watch coming into the year, and he has taken his game to a whole new level. So Illinois' offense really still runs through him, and he is finding ways to make his game even better. Braylon Allen is another one. He has been kind of the rock for Wisconsin for most games. He's still a sophomore, so he's going to have another year of college under his belt coming into next year. And I think that you look at what the Wisconsin's gone through, you knew that he wasn't going to get a ton of attention in the spotlight. Travion Henderson from Ohio State, Mayan Williams are kind of sharing the backfield, so that kind of leaves them off the conversation in terms of being in RB1 status, but that doesn't mean they're not good. That doesn't mean they're not talented. They have all the talent in the world. Ohio State is phenomenal, and I think they get overshadowed a lot because of that passing attack. Another guy that I want to bring up, and obviously the one game kind of put him up here, is Israel Abanikanda from Pitt. Now, Pitt is not having the best season, but he had a phenomenal week just 2 weeks ago. Someone who has been really consistent for Pitt. Don't think anybody expected him to have the explosion that he has this year, but he is taking his game to a new level as well. I think that there are many other options that you could put on this list. Again, I don't have time to go into every single one. There have been other guys that have shined here and there. Marshall's Kalan Laybourne has taken over for Rasheen Ali. He's looked really good. Blake Watson from Old Dominion, he has looked good at times too. There are a lot of guys, even at the G5 level, that could also be pushed in this conversation. Maybe not challenging for the top spot, but still someone that you need to talk about. So again, there are a lot of options in college football. I think that the top 2 guys are Gibbs and Robinson, however you want to flip those two. After that, to me, Corum and Charbonnet are 3 and 4. You can also probably flip those two. And I think that there's a gap after that. I think that there's plenty of talent with them, but also everybody's talented in this list. So it comes down to, are you talented? And then what are you doing with that talent? Because if you're talented and if you're not putting up big numbers, then you can't really be in this conversation. It's not that you're not a good player. It's just that right now, these are the guys that are really thriving. They're improving their draft stock. They're helping their teams win, and they are putting up numbers that deserve to be talked about. So Jahmyr Gibbs, to me, right there with Bijan Robinson. This has been a phenomenal year. Even with the expectations we had for this group, they are taking things to another level, and that's really exciting to see.